So today I'm here with Dude, my bearded dragon, and we are going to talk all about bearded dragon's diet. So the most important thing when it comes to the bearded dragon diet is to give them a varied diet, which means you give them a lot of different things. Bearded dragons eat so many different things, and that's one of the best parts about these animals. But you also want to make sure that you're providing all of those different things. That way they have different sources to get their vitamins and nutrients. So if you have a baby bearded dragon, their diets are a little bit different than the adults. So when you have a baby to a juvenile bearded dragon, they're going to be mainly eating insects. And that's really important for them because at that time they need that protein in order to grow. So within that first year, you're mainly going to be feeding them 80% insects and 20% plant matter, which are the veggies and salads that you'll be serving them. And then always fruits are just a snack. Bearded dragons do most of their growing within their first year of life. So after that first year, you want to transition them to the adult diet, which is going to be 80% plant matter and veggies and greens. And then it's going to be 20% of the insects. And then, of course, again, the fruits are just going to be snacks that add hydration and nutrition for them, but too much of fruit can be too much sugar for them and can cause diarrhea and fun stuff like that. So definitely just a treat, and you want to feed that in moderation. So today I'm going to cover the types of leafy greens that these guys eat, as well as the insects, the fruits, the veggies, even flowers that these guys can eat. And I'm also going to be covering supplementation as well and showing you guys what I fed this guy for a week, so that way you can see some examples of the different types of salads that I like to offer in order to give him a varied diet. So I'm going to start off with the leafy greens that these guys can have. So some of the best leafy greens for bearded dragons are collard greens, mustard greens, dandelion greens, turnip greens, rainbow chard, and bok choy. There are many other different greens that these guys can have, but you want to make sure that it's nice, dark, and leafy. That's usually the best kinds that they can have. And do your research before you try to feed anything to your bearded dragon. If you're not sure if they can have it, you should definitely Google it, because there are things that these animals can't have that can make them very sick as well. Some of the leafy greens that I would avoid for these guys are kale, spinach, iceberg lettuce, and romaine lettuce. Spinach can actually mess up with their calcium absorption, and the others just don't provide a lot of nutritional value for them, and it's basically just like giving them water. So that's why it's really good to make sure you're giving them the nice dark leafy greens that are great for them and giving them lots of nutrients and vitamins that they desperately need. So when it comes to veggies, a lot of the veggies that are great for these guys include carrots, tomato, but tomato should just be occasionally because it does have a high acidity. Red bell peppers, squash, celery, cucumbers, make sure that you peel the skin, pumpkin, and zucchini. There are many other types of vegetables that you can feed these guys as well, but again, make sure that you check and make sure that it's safe for them, because you don't want to be feeding them anything that's bad for them either. Bearded dragons in particular love the color red. So if you're trying to feed them a salad and they're being a picky eater, putting something red on top can really help them and entice them to eat. So that's what the tomatoes are great for, even strawberries. But again, you don't want to be offering those items all the time either. So some of the fruits that these guys can have are strawberries, blueberries, apples, watermelon, cantaloupe, and they can actually have banana occasionally. You don't want to overdo it with the banana because that can mess up with the calcium absorption as well. And then some fruits to avoid are avocado. Avocado is very toxic to bearded dragons, so you never want to feed your beardy an avocado. You should also avoid fruits that have a really high acidity level, such as orange, lemon, or pineapple. I would avoid those completely and stick with the other options for fruits. So bearded dragons can have flowers as well, and it can actually entice them to eat their salads more, and it can be really great for them. But you have to be very careful with flowers. You can't just go and pick them somewhere and then feed it to your animal, because you don't know if it's going to have pesticides on it, and that can really harm your animal. So the best thing to do is either grow your own flowers and make sure that there's no pesticides on it whatsoever, or you can actually buy these like little packets that are made especially for bearded dragons of dried flowers, and you can put that on top of their salads as well. Some of the safe flowers for bearded dragons are hibiscus, dandelions, dahlias, daylilies, and pansies. But again, make sure that you're not just picking something and giving it to them because it could have pesticides and you don't want your beardy to get sick. So when it comes to the insect options for bearded dragons, some of the best ones are superworms, dubias, gut-loaded crickets, hornworms, and waxworms. Waxworms are very fatty, so that's definitely just a treat. You don't want to be feeding that too often. And hornworms are the absolute best thing that you could feed your bearded dragon. They're very, very healthy and nutritious for them, and they also have a lot of hydration in them as well. I find that dubias and superworms are really great too. They're very nutritious. Crickets aren't really the most nutritious thing to be feeding your bearded dragon, although they do love them. So if you are going to be feeding crickets, the best thing to do is to make sure that you are gut loading it, meaning that you're feeding the crickets all of the nice healthy greens that you'd be feeding your bearded dragon anyway, just to make sure they're getting that extra amount of nutrients in their body. And when it comes to supplementation for bearded dragons, you want to make sure that you're going to be using a calcium supplement. And this can get a little bit confusing, and I made a whole other video on supplementation, so I'm going to put the link in the description if you guys need help with that and want to check it out. But for bearded dragons, since they do have a UVB light, hopefully, if you don't have one for your beardy, you definitely need to get one. But because they have that UVB, you don't want to be giving them calcium with D3 because you can literally calcify their organs. It's just way too much D3 for them because of that UVB that they already have. So you want to make sure that you're using a calcium without D3 most of the time. You also want to get them a multivitamin that you can dust on their food once a month. Very important for them to get that added nutrients. Another supplement that I would recommend, especially if you have a picky bearded dragon, there are a lot of bearded dragons that don't want to eat their salads and their greens whatsoever. And the trick to this is actually bee pollen. So if you're going to buy some bee pollen, make sure that it's organic. And if it's not in a powder form, you need to mash it up yourself and make sure that it is in a powder form before you dust it on top of their salad. Bee pollen is really great for them. It adds extra vitamins and minerals to their diet, and it also really gets them to eat their greens. I don't know why they love it so much, but they really do, and it's good for them. So I really recommend bee pollen. I sell it in my Etsy if you can't find it anywhere. I know it can be kind of hard to find sometimes, so if you want to try it, you can check it out on my Etsy. The link for that will also be in my description. So I'm going to go ahead and show you what I fed this guy for a week. I have salads for Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. He does not eat every single day. He would eat bugs every day if he could, but he's not going to eat salads every single day. So I feed him every other day. So I have 3 salads showing a varied diet for the past week. And then on Sunday, I'm just going to be giving him gut-loaded crickets because he absolutely loves those. And those will be dusted in calcium. So I hope that this video was helpful. Again, there are so many different options of things to feed your bearded dragon. You just need to make sure that you're not giving them something that's bad for them. And because a lot of people think that since they can eat so much, they can literally give them anything, but there are some dietary restrictions for them and you don't want to get them sick. So it's just very important to do your research as always. And I hope that this video was helpful. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.
You're too slow.